This is the third video now on on the review for Excel. So I opened up a budget one. Here you've got food, and here you've got clothing and transportation and rent. Okay, so immediately it's asking you for the total and the first quarter. So you know to hold down, click in cell B4, hold down your shift key. You know the blank column, the blank row, Alt equals. So that's pretty easy for you now. And the same thing here for April. And you're going to hold down your shift key, blank column, blank row, Alt equals. All right, we've got January here already, so drag it across. And you got first quarter total, April, drag it to the right. Okay, and obviously, okay, I'm going to widen the columns here. So I'll go here and double click so all the columns are wide enough. All right, so now if we want the total, that's equals the sum, open your parentheses, of the first quarter total, comma, remember, because it's two separate cells, and the second quarter total. And grab your fill handle and drag down. All right, and your percent, remember, is what percent is the food as compared to the total budget. And the total budget has to be absolute. All right, press enter, grab your fill handle, and drag down. All right, we went with one decimal place, that's fine. And here we need to get rid of some dollar signs, so pick up this one that does not have a dollar sign and paint those out. Okay, so right now you've got all your totals in, you did your percent, and it's quite easy. Now I want to do another one with you. What if I said average? Okay, if I asked you for the average quarterly, or actually the average of the 6 months. Okay, so equals average. All right, open your parentheses, and first of all you want to take your food for January, February, March, right, comma, and your average for April, May, and June food. All right, and you've got 532.50. Grab your fill handle and drag down. Okay, widen your column, and again pick up your paintbrush and wipe out these dollar signs. All right, turn your paintbrush off, save your work. That's good. All right, now we'll close that one out and go on to your next one. This one is teaching number 8 now, and is dealing with marks for students. Here's assignment 1, assignment 2, assignment 3, and so on. So if assignment 1 is worth 20%, you would have equals, there's your mark, times 20%. But everyone is weighted the same, so that has to be absolute. All right, so you get 18 out of 20, which is right. And then this time it's worth another 20%, so equals, and you've got your mark, 75 times the 20%, absolute, and you get 15 out of 20. All right, and the same thing here, assignment number 3 equals your mark times 25%, absolute, and you get 17 out of 25. And your last one's worth 35%, so equals your mark times 35%, absolute. Press enter, grab it down. All right, so what's your final mark? Your final mark is equals sum, and now you have to add. You added 18 out of 20, comma, 15 out of 20, comma, 17 out of 25, comma, and 21 out of 35. So your mark is 70.1. All right, the average mark would be equals average, open your parentheses, and this time you would take your real mark, 88, comma, 75, comma, 66, comma, 60, and press enter. All right, drag your fill handle down, and remember we've told you with marks, I want you to use one decimal place all the way to be consistent. So put in your one decimal place, and that'll be good. All right, now what we want to do is we want to find the highest mark for each assignment. Okay, so that would be equals max. Open your parentheses, and no, not max, hold on here, max. Open your parentheses and select all the test marks. So the highest mark was 88. All right, the lowest mark was equals min, which means smallest. And who had the lowest mark? The lowest mark was 72. Pretty good. And now the average mark would be equals average. Open your parentheses, and you would select all of your marks, and that's your average mark, which was 80. All right, now I'm going to select the three of them, and of course we want to drag it across so that we have the highest mark for the final marks, the average mark of all of them. And we've got 1 decimal place. That's what we want. Now we want to calculate the number of students, all right? So now when we're counting student names, remember we have to use equals count A. Open your parentheses, and here's all your students, counting their names. Count A, to count all. But now we want to know what papers were marked. How many papers were marked? All right, equals count. And remember, we only want count because it's counting values only. And so we want to count how many papers had a mark. So we had 9 papers, all right? Now I'm going to copy this, and I want to paste it here, and paste it here, paste it here, and that's it. Because I wanted to see I have 9 students, so I should have 9 papers on every one. Remember, if I put in a 0, nothing changes because it's a value, right? But if I delete it, now you see that I only marked 8 tests. Why have I not got a mark for that test? So always remember that it counts. All right? And that's it. That's all you have to do there. And we will save it and stop for a second. All right, so we've got everything done. It's saved, so close it out. And now we want to go on to teaching number 9. I've got mine open on the screen, ready to go, and I've saved it. You can do the same thing. All right, so now what we want to do, this is marks also. Now, this is the same type of marking system, but it's set up differently, okay? You're still going to find a weighting on the marks, and then you're going to find a final mark. But here, we're not going to put in separate columns. We're going to do it as one formula. So we want to say equals, and you want to take your mark of 88 times 15%. But the 15% will have to be absolute, because that's every test is, that assignment number 1 is worth 15%. Close your parentheses, plus, open your parentheses, and your second mark is 75 times the weight, and the weight is 20%, absolute. Close your parentheses, plus, open your parentheses, then your mark of 66 times 40%, absolute. All right, close your parentheses, and then plus, open your parentheses, and you want to take your last mark of 60 times your weight of 25%, absolute. All right, so there's your 4 tests. All right, so press enter, and you had a mark of 69.6. Okay, and again, we're going to make everything 1 decimal place so that it's easier for us to follow here. Okay, there's 1 decimal place. Now, your highest mark equals max, and you already know this one. So you're going to highlight from Jack down to Rosario, and then equals min, M-I-N, and you're going to highlight from Jack down to Rosario. And one more, equals average. And you are going to highlight from your marks down, and there you are. And then once you've got 1 done, you are going to drag it all the way over. Actually, I'm going to go over 1 further yet, because we need a column here for average. So A-V-E-R-A-G-E, and you're going to put in equals average, and your average is, you have to select all 4 marks, okay? And so the average is 72.3. Grab your fill handle and drag down. All right, some of these haven't got 1 decimal place on them, so put the 1 decimal place on. All right, that's good. And that's all there was to doing that. So we'll stop there, save it if you haven't. Now this one is teaching number 10, and we're starting out with one value. Okay, that's all we need here to calculate the cost of goods sold and the profit and eventually your net income. So first of all, our sales are 200,000. Now the sales growth factor you feel is going to be 30%. So I'm going to put in quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3. So here then we've got to say equals our sales plus our growth. Okay, so our sales times and our growth is 30%, and we want to make it absolute. So we feel that our sales are going to grow 30% every quarter. All right, and you're going to grab your fill handle and drag over. All right, so now you have the sales have gone up 30% each time. All right, your cost of goods sold are 35%. So equals your 35% absolute times your sales. Okay, so the cost of goods sold is 70%. 35% of your sales. And we're going to drag it across. And then the gross margin would be equals always your sales minus the cost of goods sold. All right, so you can figure that one out and grab your fill handle and drag across. Now, your expenses, okay? Your expenses are 25% of the gross margin. All right, so 25% of the gross margin are your expenses. And now, 25% has to be absolute. So make sure you've got that absolute. So your expenses will be 32,500, and then you're going to drag over. Now, the earnings before taxes would have to be equals, and they'd have to be your gross margin minus your expenses. Your gross margin minus your expenses. So your earnings before taxes are 97,500. Okay, your taxes are 30%. Tax rate's 30%. So your taxes would be equals 30% absolute times your earnings before taxes. So your taxes are going to be 29,000. So now what's your net income? Equals your earnings before taxes minus your taxes that you have net income. Now I purposely didn't drag them because I wanted you to see that I was going to highlight all three of them and drag them over. And it doesn't matter which way you do it. Now we want the year to date. You're going to click here, hold down your shift key and click here, and you're going to have Alt equals. And there's your total, your year to date for each piece that you wanted. Now on this one here, it's really tough on the dollar signs because you have cost of goods sold, expenses. They're all important lines. And so if you left them all in, I likely am not going to say anything. But here I would say we want sales and gross margin and maybe net income to have the dollar signs, and the rest won't. All right. So I'm going to right click, go to Format Cells, and go to Accounting and say no dollar sign there. So now I have my dollar signs on my sales, my gross margin, my net income, because those are the most important factors. All right, so we'll save that and stop here.